Grand Rising, Mi5, my people, my family, my tribe. Happy Tuesday, May 23rd. Holy guacamole, this year is going by so fast. I want to welcome everybody to another amazing episode of the Mi5 show. Fun fact, this week on the Mi5 show, not only do we have Mr. Richard Elzy, who I'll bring on here in a little bit and introduce, but I also have Mr. Andrew Golden in the same room as myself. He's right over here.
He's
right over here. Normally,
no way, both the Mi5 show hosts in the same room. This is unheard of, man. What's up, bro?
What's going on, homie? We have Andrew Golden live in the house. Normally, we're all the way across the country. Andrew's out in California, but he flew in to Boston this morning, and we get the pleasure of doing the Mi5 show in the same room. It's so much fun. It's like we're an actual show out in this joint. So listen, everybody, before I bring Mr. Richard on and before I tell you all about who this man is and all of his amazing accomplishments and how we work with him on the regular and so many different fun projects, I want to just dive a little bit deeper into some updates and some 101 for the Mi5 movement, because we have some big splashes coming and we have a lot of exciting stuff.
No pun intended.
No pun intended at all, but some big splashes, some exciting stuff in the pipeline. We've been working with so many amazing, talented individuals over the course of the last 365 days together as the Mi5 movement, and we have created pure magic, and we are actually launching off something that we are truly proud of that I cannot wait to share with you guys tonight, because I want you to realize that the Mi5 movement is making waves. And if you don't know what the Mi5 movement is and you can't comprehend all of the movement that we are making, you're going to be able to see a little peek behind the curtain of what we've had working for you guys this evening. I'm going to pull up and show you guys an actual amazing sneak preview of we've got Treasure Island up in this joint. Guys, Mi5 is launching off another sister company, Treasure Island. So when Mi5 first started, we were super passionate about creating not only, number one, the best version of you and helping you become the most empowered, the most empowered version of yourself to be able to move forth within the world and do what you're passionate about, and to live a life where you can do what you're passionate about every single day. And not only do I have that blessing as a job-free entrepreneur, Andrew has that blessing as a job-free entrepreneur, Mr. Richard Elzy has that blessing, who's coming on here on the Mi5 show, has that blessing, but we help individuals become the best versions of themselves. We empower them. We give them individual education. We give them resources. We give them tools. We give them so many different outlets to be able to access within our network to becoming the best versions of themselves. And then we plug them into passive income vehicles that help generate residual income streams and passive income, so that we can focus more so on what we're passionate about by having that passive income in place. Because Mi5 allows us to show you guys how to have your money work for you through various passive income vehicles that we've put out over the last 365 days. And boy, has it been magical. We've helped over 65 people create six-figure residual income streams, and it's been a wild ride. It's been a lot of fun, and we are just getting started, because Treasure Island is launching off, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. So before we get started here tonight, I just wanted to make that announcement. And you may be asking yourself, what is Treasure Island? Well, the passive income vehicles used to be partnerships, and they still are. We have partnerships with various companies, hedge funds, e-commerce companies, and various resources for our people to access passive income. And we've created and forged so many relationships over the year that we asked ourselves, why aren't we just creating the passive incomes ourselves? We've had over 1,000 Zoom meetings. We've had over hundreds and hundreds of in-person meetings at various conferences. And we've forged and created so many relationships with individuals all over the world. And we had all the resources right in front of us this whole time. And we said, you know what? I think the time has come. Let's take all of our resources together and create a place where we can put our resources to use so that we can have the ultimate, best, most amazing passive income vehicle generator in the world. That is Treasure Island. We are going to have multiple passive income vehicles within the Treasure Island space. We are so amped to launch this off, and it is launching off on May 31st. That is a Wednesday. and that is at 8 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to be putting out a bunch of marketing material about this, so you'll be able to see it. If you are a member of Mi5, you can come on in and check it out. It's going to be really great. But check it out. You can go to treasureisland.vip. This is our website, and I want to play for you guys the trailer of Treasure Island. Sit back and enjoy, and then we're going to bring Richard on and have some fun.
Ahoy there, brave voyagers! In the vast expanse of the financial markets, a unique opportunity lies hidden. Welcome to Treasure Island! A new age income stream for those yearning to escape the chains of the 9-to-5. Here we set sail not for mere gold doubloons, but for the treasure of passive income. We chart courses through alternative investing methods, exploring uncharted territories with high-yielding potential. Yar, 'tis the call of the financial and time freedom that beckons us. Tired of the shackles, yearning for a life spent out living your passions, breaking free of the mundane 9-to-5? Listen, matey, 'tis the call of the wild sea, promising a voyage like none other. Dare ye journey with us to Treasure Island? Join our crew live on Zoom every Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Register now at treasureisland.vip/explore. Adventure and wealth awaits, but only for the daring. Will ye answer the call?
Oh my goodness, what an amazing, amazing trailer. We are so amped to launch off Treasure Island. That's not this Wednesday, but that's next Wednesday, May 31st, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, treasureisland.vip. Check it out. We are unleashing something truly phenomenal that is going to change so many people's lives and have such a big impact on all of you watching tonight, as well as anybody that you know, to be able to put your money to work to create a double-digit monthly return on investment through various vehicle sources in so many different industries, not just the financial markets, but also fun things like commodities, real estate, treasure. What? Check. So, like, come on by, check it out. So, yeah, without further ado, I want to bring on our guest tonight. Now, let me talk to you about Mr. Richard Elzy. This is a gentleman that I've had the pleasure of working with for several months now. It's been an astonishing time, getting to know Richard. He is an amazing entrepreneur. He is an independent, individual that creates so much magic with all the connections that he's brought us in contact with. And similar to myself and Eric and some of the other leaders and the people within the Mi5 community, he loves connecting people with people and watching magic happen. We work together in the real estate space. We work together in the space of oil, and we've worked together on spaces of, properties together in double closing transactions, transactional funding, all sorts of fun investments that we've got going on behind the scenes that some of you within the community may have heard us speak about if you've been in some of our smaller, more intimate setting talks. Richard has actually ownership in a professional racing horse. I believe it's called a quarter horse. Very, very unique, opportunity. One of the best. His father was one of the best racing horses, and he'll speak more about that, I'm sure, this evening. And he's graduated from Georgetown University, and we'll hear all about that background as well. I just want to invite and welcome on to the Mr. Richard Elzy. How you doing tonight, man?
Hey, what's going on, my man Brian and the Mi5 community? I am humbled to be on here, and I guess it's a special occasion because we have you and Andrew in the same house. So I feel very appreciative for that, and I thank you for having me on. I hope I can bring some value for you.
Absolutely. I think every time we speak, you bring value, and hearing your story and bits and pieces of it working together over the course of the last few months has been awesome. And yeah, we're very blessed to have you, man. So Richard, I think the best way to start is, give our community a little bit of an oversight. Like, who's Richard? What do you do in the world? No one kind of tells their story better than straight from the horse's mouth.
I like that. Well, I'll start from the beginning. I'll be brief. I was born and raised in Douglas, Arizona, which is where I am at now. I'm at our family ranch. Douglas, Arizona, you've probably never heard of. It's about it's a border town. I'm actually living 1 mile away from the infamous border wall, which is actually a fence. You can actually see it from the top of my house. But I've lived here growing up until I left for college. Had the privilege of playing baseball for Georgetown University. I'll speak about that during our talk today. And great experience. Got to travel the East Coast. Young Mexican kid from Douglas, Arizona, on the East Coast was culture shock. So I have some good stories about that. Then I moved on to Phoenix, Arizona. That's where I lived the majority of my adult life. I have two kids. My daughters, Yasmin. My daughter Yasmin is attending University of Hawaii, and my son is a junior, about to be a senior at Corona del Sol High School, and he's one of the best basketball players in the state. So I'm very proud of my kids. Single parent that I co-parented with their mom. Very appreciative for the relationship we have there. I can speak to that, especially as it applies to entrepreneurship as well. I would say about half of my adult professional life was in corporate America. And so I lived that rat race, working 60, 80 hours a week, making very good money, but having zero time for my kids. And that just was not the avenue I want to do, the way I want to structure my life. The other half has been entrepreneurship. I basically get on my hands involved in anything I can do to keep me from having a boss. That is the most important thing for me at this point, above the amount of money I make, the time freedom. And when I talk about time freedom, I'm not talking about sitting on the couch and doing nothing, but actually being able to invest my time in the areas that I want to, whether it's my kids, my entrepreneurial endeavors, my horses, whatever that might be. That's what I want to do. And like I said, what I want to do is bring value to you guys as we're going through this. Anything that I can give, because I know by giving I receive even more. And just in being involved in these podcasts, I'm very appreciative, Brian, for you and Eric and the relationship we forged in the different industries that we forged, and it's exciting.
Oh, hold on 1 second. Let me get you back on here. There you are, Richard.
Okay.
You were saying one of the, and then you cut out, so you can resume there.
No. So I was just saying, as we progress through here, if I can add any value, I definitely will.
Oh, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Richard. I think, the way we like to kind of start this off too is, tell us a little bit about, your journey. Because you told us, right, that you were working within corporate America, but now more than anything, the most valuable currency in the whole universe is time, and that time freedom, and having that recognition. I would love to hear a little bit more about what led you to that awareness of knowing. Was it a younger age that you knew it? Was it a certain moment within your career? But yeah, what led you to that sort of?
So attending a university like Georgetown, I loved my experience there, loved the connections and networks I was able to create there. But in terms of the real world, it taught me how to be a good employee, how to work my way up the corporate chain, which was important in my earlier career. But once I had kids, the most important thing in my life is being around them. They were very active in sports growing up. My daughter played soccer, so I was a soccer head coach. My son played baseball, basketball, football, and he's now investing all his time into basketball. And juggling those two things, what were the two most important things in my life then, my career and my kids. It wasn't the lifestyle that I thought I was getting into. And it took many hours working in a cubicle, making a lot of money, but understanding that I'm not even moving from that cubicle for 8 to 10 hours out of the day. And so I got tired of being the head coach who was showing up 5-10 minutes late to all the games, to the practices, because I'm in that rat race, being in the rush hour traffic, trying to get where I'm going. And that just wasn't the quality of life that I wanted. Like, yes, we're able to take awesome vacations. we're able to live a high quality life in terms of some aspects of my life, but the important things, it just wasn't there. So it's not when you decide to go the entrepreneurship route, there's not a clear path. That there's not really a school you go to that explains to you step by step. So it's been a lot of trial and error, but I've loved that trial and error, and that's something I welcome in my life.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting, because you said like it's easy, I think, for certain entrepreneurs that have that level of skill, right? That level of knowing that they love to be around people, knowing that they have that competitive nature to them, that they want to succeed. And it's making that choice to break away, right? Because that's one of the hardest things, of like I think being in the corporate world first, which I also came from, right? And just recognize, oh yeah, I've built a really great position for myself and a career, and I've got my network, and I'm going up the corporate ladder, and I'm getting raises, and I'm making over six figures, and I've got sweet, vacations and benefits and perks, and you can kind of get lost in that sort of, that lull of the American Novocaine, if you will. It's just, but yeah, no, understanding and recognizing obviously that there's just so much more potential to life, and there's so much more value, that you could be rewarded for, actually recognizing your worth and recognizing your space, especially in this type of innovative world. I mean, for those that are watching, like, Richard and you and I think we've got multiple six-figure, positions on the table currently with all the different things in the plates that we've got spinning together, between us. Multiple six figures, like, the salary that I used to have at a corporate job, like what you and I will probably make together this year, and a couple deals that we're working on will probably be like 10x what I ever made in a corporate job together by the time the year's up.
And I do want to say this, like, there's something about the security of having the job, right? And that was helpful when my kids were young. And I'm not trying to bag on corporate America. It helped me get to where I am. A lot of the relationships I have now were actually built in corporate America, but now we're making out money together outside of those walls, where we have the freedom to do and act and go in the directions that we want to go. So, but it's just the bigger picture. When there was one time I was at my desk in between calls, I was actually writing down how many hours I had actually put in that year in that cubicle.
Wow.
And then I times that by 10. And then I times that, and then I looked at going another 20, 30 years in that direction. And it was sickening to me how much time I was going to be putting in that cubicle. And at the end of my days, I'd rather struggle, I said, learning how to do it outside of that, than being a slave to that in my mind. But again, it took me a long time to get to that point, because I was trained to be that way. I bought into the corporate ladder, as I know you did as well.
For sure.
But now I'm trying to show my kids that there's other ways of doing it as well. For sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, there's a lot of great benefits to being in the corporate American model. There is definitely a lot of skill sets that can be learned, a lot of networking that can be accomplished, and a lot of resources that can can be obtained within that translates over into the space that we're in now. So definitely has its advantages to having the path and the journey that we've had versus kind of, I guess, being born with one or the other, to an extreme. But so Richard, you said trial and error, learning as you go, sort of all these buzzwords, throughout the story here thus far. I'd love to hear, name some of the lessons and the challenges that you've had within entrepreneurship along your journey, and kind of how you've learned from those lessons, and how it's molded you into who you are today.
Right. And so I think a lot of the conditioning that goes on in corporate America, you really start to strategize how you can work your way up the corporate ladder. But there's structures that you have to play within, right? Yeah. But it wasn't until I left that structure. It's the thing I want to talk about right now is the ripping off of the lid, right? So there's a lid that's put on you when you're corporate America, you know what that next position is, and you know kind of the income involved with that. You know, the detailed description of the job that you're going to be doing. And so it's very controlled. The systems are very controlled, and there's not a lot of latitude to jump from one area to another. But then you rip off the lid, right? And then you're able to, like, even I would say the first couple of years in entrepreneurship, even then I didn't even realize the lid was still there, and telling me, okay, even as I'm networking, there's limits to my networking, right? The difference between me then and me now and the person you've gotten to know, and we're kind of in the same journey now, is and we're seeing as we go into different industries, as we go into the oil industry, as we go into the hotel industry, as we go into the water park industry, as we go into huge land development industries, there's really nothing stopping you from going in those directions. Like we get so used to asking for permission to do things, and the last thing I want to do in my life is ask for permission to go hang out with my kids, for permission to go watch their basketball games, go watch their soccer games, to go watch their drama performances. To be able, I mean, one of the most enjoyable volunteer experiences was when my son was in second grade, and I was able to go volunteer and talk about how a government functions to second graders, how business functions, how they relate together. And I see these kids 10 years later in high school, and they still remember the things we talked about, and just opening their eyes to seeing it a different way, and not having to ask for permission to go do that is so liberating. And that started to open up rip off the lid. And then as you progress, you start to realize there's other lids there that you've put there. But it's about being cognizant of those and then getting through those.
That's awesome, Richard. Yeah, no, I think that having that experience is definitely one of the biggest, I would say, blessings of gratitude that lives within my heart every day, is just recognizing the lack of need to ask for permission. Andrew and I were just jamming out to the song Vacation. Love my occupation every single day. Blessed to be able to literally attend those life moments that you may have to ask permission for. A lot of my kids growing up and whatnot, when my children were younger, that I had to constantly miss out on key pinnacle moments of their childhood because of asking permission or not even getting permission. Because again, even though you may ask, you may not be granted.
And what an inhumane feeling that is.
Yeah.
To have to ask for permission to go spend time with your loved ones.
Yeah.
That for me was the final straw. Actually,
that's definitely a wake-up moment, right? Like, why should you have to ask permission? Or even just for that matter of just to live for those 2 to 4 weeks vacation per year, just when there's other opportunities where we're drawn to it, right? Like, you've got family or friends going away for the weekend. Oh, I'd love to go, but I've got to work. It's like, or it's certain family members even visiting in town, but like you have to work because it's not part of your planned PTO, and it just the framework there is tough.
But what about having to ask for permission to go to a funeral?
Yeah.
And then telling you how many days you can take off to mourn a little
exactly. Bit. Yeah.
Not I don't like those rules.
Not the lifestyle we enjoy. But yeah, no, I mean, so great wisdom so far. The next thing I kind of wanted to dive into is some exciting, elements that I've learned about you. I'd love to talk about the horses, right? Like, people have probably been wondering, hey, what's with the horses in the background? I mentioned, your ownership with a horse, so tell us kind of like the significance, I guess, because I know when we first met, that we had quite a big conversation around that. And you do have ownership in a pretty neat horse. We'd love to kind of hear on the show, Richard and horses.
Well, you may have to cut me off because I could definitely talk about this for hours at a time. So
Will do.
I will try to be brief. So me and my father used to train racehorses. My father passed away about 4 years ago, unfortunately, when I was living in Phoenix. And I actually moved down to back to Douglas to take care of my mom, take care of the ranch that we had. Just a small ranch. Now we just have a horse, more of a pet horse. He's been on the ranch for 27 years, if you can believe that. But in my time back on the ranch, I got the bug again for training racehorses. For getting involved in the horse racing business. I don't have time to be doing all the training myself. But luckily, I do have the services of one of the greatest trainers in the country. And so it all kind of came full circle. I found the love again for the horses. And in around the time that my father had passed away, a Hall of Fame quarter horse trainer in Arizona had befriended me on Facebook. And the common theme with a lot of my relationships with you, Brian, with Eric, is just the networking that happens and things that you don't even know that are going to happen from the network, from being willing to open yourself to somebody else and to exchange ideas, to exchange pleasantries. And we developed a relationship. He was retired. And in our conversations, he got the bug to get back into horse racing. And I told him, when you get that bug, you give me a call. So we put together a partnership of 5 partners, and we purchased one of the fastest horses literally in the country. So we bought him at a sale down in Ruidoso, New Mexico, which is where the mecca of quarter horse racing. And one of the neat things that not a lot of people know is when it comes to horse racing, there's quarter horse racing and there's thoroughbred racing. Quarter horse racing is like a drag race. It's 440 yards or less, and the horse is just going full speed. That's what I'm part of. And then there's thoroughbred racing, which is more like the Indianapolis 500. It's like a mile long, and that's the Kentucky Derby. So entry point into thoroughbred racing, which traditionally has been more popular just because there's more known about thoroughbred racing. At the highest level of thoroughbred racing, at the highest level of quarter horse racing, the purse money is almost the same. But what I found out just in my experience is the entry level point to get a horse that's capable of qualifying for those types of races, it's 1/10 the cost of a quarter horse. And so there's an inherent advantage when you're looking at investing in a quarter horse versus a thoroughbred, because like I said, the purse money at the top is almost the same, but the entry level is only 1/10 of that. So what I'm trying to do is bring my love of horses that I've had since I was a kid. I used to wake up in the mornings around 6 a.m. and go work out the horses before I left to high school. And then I played sports after high school. And then I'd come back and I'd do it again the next day. That love, along with my love for business and investing, is kind of all coming together now. And it's been cool to get my family and my friends back involved in that. So like I said, now that's something I wouldn't have been able to pursue in corporate America, to even have the creative juices of coming up with this partnership, of attracting the services of one of the best trainers in the country. This is obviously true passion for me in my heart that I would not have been able to follow, and I wouldn't have given myself permission to even do that 5 to 10 years ago. So that's where we are with my passion for the horse. And he just made his debut a couple weeks ago, came in second place by a head, very fast time. So we just paid him into the trials of a pretty big race there in Louisiana that we'll be running in next month. So literally one of the fastest horses, not only in the country, but in the world. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I remember you coming to us and saying, kind of updates along the way. We kind of got to follow the journey a little bit, which is really cool. And to see your horse race, you sent us the video the other day. Me and Eric were just like, yeah, second place. It's so cool just to have, ownership in one of the fastest horses in the world. That's
Right.
really neat.
And here's the thing is that there's only 2 places I found that kind of adrenaline. One was when I was on the pitcher's mound at Georgetown University. The other is when the horse is about to break out of the gates. And for those 21 seconds, it's one of the greatest thrills that I'll ever feel. and one of the greatest thrills for the horse, where he's truly feeling who God intended him to be, and for the horse to give himself to a relationship with humans, and to trust us, and to be able to run that fast and experience that kind of exhilaration. That's an exhilaration that horse would have never felt in the wild, yet for having that relationship with a human and finding its full potential, which is something I'm just in love with right now.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, no, truly, truly special. So Richard, tell me, I'm curious, out of all of the different elements of your entrepreneurship, what do you enjoy most, I would say, about your day-to-day, about what you get to experience as an individual who can be a job-free entrepreneur, an individual that makes his own rules and doesn't answer to no one and doesn't have to ask permission.
Right. So being able to prioritize my life is one of the most important things. I remember going into the office, because I have to juxtapose it from that. Is it would take me on the way to the office, it would take me about an hour and 10 minutes just to get there. On the way back, because I was leaving the office so late, it was a little quicker, so maybe about 45 minutes on the way back. But that's at least 2 hours that I wasted, right? And not so much wasted, because personal development kicked in and I was able to be productive with that time. But that's just me trying to make a better situation of a situation I didn't want to be in. Because now I'd rather go shovel horse poop in the mornings and involve myself with the earth and be able to meditate out there with the animals, than being stuck in traffic, just being agitated from the get-go. Then you get to work, right? And I'm not one of those people who has to be in an office to work. I'm not one of the people by the cooler, by the water cooler, just talking and spending extra long breaks, meetings that don't mean anything, and having to make dials that don't mean anything just to show numbers. There's so many meaningless things that I was doing in my day when I had a boss, versus now in the morning, even when I'm not having the most productive of days, I can stop, prioritize my day, and say, what are the 2 or 3 most important things that I can get done today? And if I accomplish those things, the day was still very productive. And I just having the ability to prioritize those things myself and not have to run those by certain people, and get those checked off, or having to sit in meetings that didn't mean anything. Like, the meetings I'm in now are meaningful. If they're not meaningful, I'm not in those meetings, right? Because I control my time. And that's one of those things that's probably, if you can see, I as I think about it more, as I meditate more and I become more self-aware, I may have a problem with authority, but I recognize it and I'm trying to make it a benefit versus something that can hurt me.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that having that freedom to prioritize what's most important is something that I personally love. It's like it's very liberating to be able to say, I'm choosing, to take this action and to make this step. So I think, at this point in time, Richard, we're probably going to cut for a commercial break. When we come back, Mr. Andrew Golden will be spending some time with you. What an amazing first half of the show. So just hang tight, Richard, and we'll be right back in just a moment, guys.
Sounds good, man.
At Grand Rising Financial, we can help brand new or existing businesses secure funding through various funding solutions. Our primary means of funding is 0% interest credit stacking, where we can secure $50,000 to $250,000 at 0% interest for 6 to 24 months. We also offer personal and business term loans, as well as 0% interest personal credit stacks. We are so confident in our work that we are a performance-based company, and we only charge on the back end after we have secured your funding. It is no secret that in 2023, the state of the current economy is looking rough, but we are here to help. Whether you are trying to create a better life for you and your family, or simply trying to grow and scale your business, at Grand Rising Financial, we not only help you obtain funding, but we consider ourselves leaders in financial education so that we can equip you with the tools to build a life that you can be proud of. We help entrepreneurs, business owners, and visionaries with a handful of funding and credit building services. For more information and to book a free consultation, please reach out to us at grandrisingfinancial.com or send us a message on Facebook at Grand Rising Financial to learn more and speak with a member of our team. Let Grand Rising Financial help you fund your dreams.
Well, Richard, it is absolutely wonderful to be here with you tonight, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm loving it so far, Andrew.
Oh yeah, man. It was such a good half of the show. And honestly, man, I just want to say, like, you seem like such a cool guy, and it's very apparent that your passion for what you do is absolutely glowing within you. You know, there's not a single bit of it's a very bright flame that you have, you know, roaring inside of you with, you know, just being able to, like, dude, like literally fully embrace having that passion driven life. And it's so cool, and it's so it really embodies the entire message and the entire frequency that we're trying to help people get to, you know, within Mi5. It's like you're literally a living example of, you know, freeing yourself through creating cash flowing, you know, mechanisms so that you can just have the time freedom to live your life.
I appreciate that, man. And I can feel that frequency whenever I talk to you guys in whatever setting it is, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a Zoom. It's evident when that flow is happening. And I feel that with your entire community. So I appreciate and am humbled to even be able to speak to you guys.
Oh yeah, man. And I really appreciate you saying that. And one thing too is, like, dude, we got to get you like in the actual community, bro. It's such a fun place. And I feel like you'd be such a great, like, you'd you know, fit right in with all of the different things we have going on, man.
For sure.
Yeah, it's such a great place. So, you know, one thing I wanted to ask is, you know, it's very, like I said, it's very clear and apparent about that you are very passionate and have so much wisdom when it comes to, like, exiting that corporate space and moving into more of creating, you know, blazing your own trail and things like that. Is there a specific moment, like, can you give me a story of when you were like, you know what, I'm sick and tired of this, I'm gonna do it, that's it, period, like, we're gonna, like, something has to change?
Yeah, the one that comes to my mind is I was supposed to leave work at a certain time. I wasn't able to. I had I was coaching my son's I think T-ball or little league team at the time.
Oh, he just cut out. Well, looks like Mr. Richard has a technical difficulty, unfortunately, but hopefully he pops in here in like 1 second or something like that. We'll see what happens.
On and off tonight, so
yeah, it's all right. He's been having some connectivity issues, but guys, it is just freaking lit. I am here in Brian Davis's office. Oh, and we got Mr. Richard Elzy back in the house.
Yeah, man. My office is in a ranch in the sticks, so sometimes internet isn't the best, but
it's all good,
still,
man.
The capability of still being here with you.
The show must go on. That's right.
So I was saying I showed up late to that game, and I remember the only time ever being kicked out of a game because I was already in a pissed off mood, and then the umpire said something, and I just went off, and I was so embarrassed that I'd gotten kicked out that I lost my control, and that's when I really started to sink in that I needed to have more control. That's what comes to mind when you ask that question.
Yeah. Oh wow. That's like such a good example too, because it's like it's such an emotional moment, you know, not only like going from like total anger to realizing that's not actually who I am, what the heck, and then embarrassment and like maybe even like, you know, just like regretting making that decision. Yet in the same moment, you know, you might not realize it, but that's like such a huge lesson to learn. Without that, it's like, you know, it kind of had to, it's the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak.
Right.
So,
and it's being able to be self-aware, right?
Yeah.
And meditation is something I've really got into the last 5 years. I wouldn't say that's what I was doing then, but that may have been what led to that, is really understanding what do I really want, and living my life to those principles and those values.
Yeah, and that's the third time I've heard you mention meditation on this show so far, and that's something that we're huge about here at Mi5. We've had Reiki masters come on the show. We've had people that pretty much everyone that's like a deep integrated family member of the Mi5 movement. It almost always ends up going over to spiritual topics when we're just talking as friends, and like I know that Brian and I especially are testimonies of what meditation can do for you. I'm just curious, what's your experience like? Why did you end up getting into it? Because clearly it's made a difference. So what's kept you doing that over the last you said 5 years, right?
Yeah. So right around, actually maybe about a year before my father passed away, because my relationship with my father was something huge. We had a really good relationship, so it was tough for me, but thankful for meditation, for doing my work prior to that time, because it really helped me digest what was going on and get through that time period in my life. I saw a video from, have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza? I'm sure you probably have.
Yeah.
And just talking about the mind and us being in control of the mind. So I had, and it's kind of, I kind of backed into the meditation part, but I started doing a lot of those mind exercises. I started doing some fasting. And then, so another reason why I left corporate America is I went from being a Division I baseball athlete at Georgetown University to being severely overweight in corporate America, again, because I'm in a cubicle my entire day. And I've since lost 70 pounds since then, and meditation was a big part of that, and fasting was a big part of that, because in the fasting, it taught me that I'm in control of my body. My mind is in control of my body, and not the other way around. And in meditation, I just take that to another level. And again, that's another thing that I probably wouldn't have had time for in corporate America, is actually, if the day's getting away from me and I wasn't able to meditate like the way I wanted to in the morning, I can take 5-10 minutes, reframe my mind, and get me back on task. Earlier, I mentioned if your day's not going the way it's going, but you still can knock out those 2 to 3 priorities. Well, in meditation, I'm able to figure out what's important, the little voices in my mind that are not helping me out, versus the things that I absolutely have to get done. Yep. And that's all comes from meditating and being self-aware, and not, the freedom of being able to do those things, and not being a slave to the corporate structure per se.
Oh yeah, 100%, man. And like, I was recognizing in your talk with Brian about how, obviously about your shift from corporate to being an entrepreneur, right? And I know that one of the biggest difference for me was recognizing that, like, going from a job to, because I went from corporate America to, and I didn't like have this like 10-year stint, or right, I'm only 22, and I like had a job, and I was like, screw this, I don't want to do this, let's go do something else.
I wish I understood this at 22, man.
Oh man,
kudos to you.
And I just express my gratitude every single day for having growing up in the time that I have, just because like this message is touted everywhere, man. People are shouting this from the mountaintops, and like you can see growing up with social media in a bad way, or you can see it in a good way, because it's the free flow of information, right? And I had real mentors that don't know who I am, people that will never probably know me, but they were my mentors because they showed me that how like actually transformational that mindset is of blazing your own trail.
Hey, but I did want to say one thing that's real important, that I don't know if I understood this, or maybe I understood it for a different reason. But even in corporate America, I always understood the importance of networking. And even so for someone who might be listening out there who's not in their ideal situation, what I would say is there's a lot of value that can be found in the circle you're in, or with certain individuals within the circles that you're in. Because the networking that I'm doing now and the opportunities that I'm finding for other individuals, I'm going back to the CEOs of the companies that I used to work with, the VP level and above, because I had such a good relationship with them. Now, it may have been me trying to to work my way up the corporate ladder. But I've always lived by this motto, which is to give as much value as you can in whatever circle you're in, because you never know when that's going to come back. And even just my involvement with you guys now, like through Eric, if it wasn't for me and Eric giving value to a mastermind that we were in a different industry, then this connection may have never happened. And it did now. And it all makes sense now, which it may not have at the time. But what Eric and I were doing at the time was giving value to that mastermind and not asking more than what we were giving to it. And that's a valuable lesson in whatever circle you're in, at whatever time period you're in your life, in your professional career or your entrepreneurship career. Is there's value to be received and value to be given. More importantly, to be given so that you can then receive in those situations, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Just right on point, man. And like, they have that, there's that saying that floats around. It's like, the more that you learn, the more that you earn. Right. And that can be thought of in two different ways. It's like, of course, yeah, the more that you learn, you can go apply those skills and create massive action plans and just execute. Right. But not only that, but once you have the experience, once you've gone out and executed on that action, you can then go to people that you value and that also have value to share and be like, this is how I did this, and this is how I can help you do it too. And it's like just crazy. Like, the more that you actually don't just like fill in your brain as dead, empty space and energy, but like actually being able to, create, turn it into form, and then being able to share that is probably the biggest. And I know that, just from what I've heard about you so far from the show and conversation with Brian, like, that's probably the biggest part of your occupation now, like your day to day is just communicating accurate information and being a human about it too.
Right. And then that's what so when we talk about gratitude, I don't always have gratitude for my younger self in certain things, but one of the things I have huge gratitude was the way I handle those situations, because now when I call those individuals that I haven't talked to in maybe 10, 15 years, they take my phone call and they return my phone call. And it's something that I built 10 to 15 years ago that's now being fruitful. And I'm very grateful for that situation, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the topic of networking, we could honestly cover it for, an hour plus, man. But what I really want to know is, there's a clear and obvious difference of the type of brain state that you need to put yourself and the type of brain state and workflow that you need to put yourself in going from a corporate to entrepreneurial world. And that would be the difference between being productive versus being focused. Right. And I know that in the corporate world, a lot of what is valued is just pure productivity, like who can get the most done the fastest. Right. But in our position, a lot of it comes down to what's the least amount of time that you can get the most done in, or like how much value can you deliver it in 1 hour type of thing.
Right.
Or whether it's to yourself and your business or somebody else. And like, I'd love to kind of hear your thoughts on how that shift was and how you kind of manage that, or if you didn't even really think about it, because it's something that I've been realizing recently. It's like, it's not about getting the most done, it's about doing less but getting more out of it.
Right. So I was trained very well to be very busy always, and always look like you're busy, and the most like the thing you have to avoid is to not look like you're busy, right?
Yeah.
That's you're put in this box, and now just the ability to actually think what is the most important thing. I think getting away from those chains and being able to trial and error what the most important things are has been huge for me. Ask that question again, just to make sure I'm answering that right.
Yeah, just like what is your I guess meaning and experience with the difference between productivity and focus, like being as productive as you can and being as focused as you can. And honestly, like, that's a pretty good explanation just from experience. I'm curious though, do you have any methods that you use to try and be more focused and get more output out of your input, so to speak, or you're just like, yeah, I just do it and I don't know, because there's some people you ask, that's what it is.
It's the meditation, right? Yeah. And in the meditation, I think what are the most important things to me? I'm always thinking about my kids, thinking about my mom, thinking about my relationship with both of them, both my kids, my mom, my family, um, and because so I was so ingrained to be to looking busy and figuring out ways to look busy that now in my meditation I'm able to actually think about why I'm doing things and why they're important. And if they're not important, I eliminate those then. And having the flexibility to do that has been huge.
Yeah, seriously, and it's just a matter of also, like, there if you haven't, read this book, I highly recommend it. It's called The Untethered Soul, but
I've heard of it. I haven't read it yet.
it's incredible, and it covers exactly what you're talking about. I feel like you would get a lot out of it. I got so much out of it, and I've been
That's
meditating.
on my list for sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad
Well,
you
yeah.
mentioned that.
Yeah, man, I'm, like, right in the middle of it right now, and you're, like, literally it's like quoting the book right now.
Right.
So, what a lot of what that is, though, just from what I've learned from the book, but also from my years of experience meditating as well, is like you go from this level of, you know, uh, just like constantly like rattling things off in your head like a checklist, almost like bullet points constantly, to just being conscious.
Yeah.
Like it's the level of consciousness instead of just like active awareness. I don't know if active awareness and consciousness are different, but you know what I mean though, with the whole
Yeah.
bullet point thing. You're just like, I got to do this, 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 and this, or like these are the data points for this deal or whatever it is. And
Right.
just simply having that level of stepping back,
So to expound a little more on that, so I know in in figuring out in my day what's most important, right? So my daughter's in college. I need to pay the college bills. That's pretty important, right? In corporate America, it's about keeping the job because every 2 weeks you're going to get the same. So your priorities are different, right? It's making yourself seem important, seem certain ways. But when you're an entrepreneur, you need to figure out exactly what are the most important things and why.
Yep.
Because I don't have that security of that paycheck always being there. So if I can figure out, so there's no waste of time. When I know, my son doesn't go to this basketball camp unless I get some sales in certain areas, then there's no, I'm not BSing myself. The actions are for productivity, and you have the flexibility and the freedom to determine what those things are for sure.
Yeah, I mean, couldn't have said it better myself, man. That like, it's really all about just being able to like accurately manage your priorities without having to be like obsessive about, it's like it just kind of is this natural flow to things.
Yeah.
And the topic of your kids has come up so much, and I know that's such an important piece of your life, and I can relate to that because just of being the oldest out of 6 kids in my family. It's like I practically raised like 3 of them. And so one thing that I know might make you think a little bit is, what is a lesson, what's one of the main life lessons that you've actually learned from your kids, or from raising your kids? But I your kids seem like they're older, so it feels like you probably have learned quite a few things just because they're dude, everyone ends up being like growing up. Okay, sorry, let me back it up a little bit. Watching them grow up and turn from this like little kid to an actual real person.
Yeah.
Like you sit there and you have a moment, you're like, oh my gosh, like this person is actually becoming the person that they're going to be.
Yeah.
And seeing some of the lessons that you can extract from that, it's like such a heartfelt moment.
So I can expound it. I know we don't have a lot more time, but I could talk about this for hours as well.
Yeah.
My kids are my passion. They're everything. So just a few things to touch on, though, is they're older now, but when I was in the corporate chain and the corporate rat race, they were 1 and 4 years old, and me and their mom had split up. So half the week I'm a single parent with a 1 and a 4-year-old trying to make all this work, right? So one thing before I say what I want to say, just before I forget, is my advice, and now thinking about how old my kids are now, I definitely feel older, just putting myself through that mental process. But what I would tell young parents is put in the hard work when they're young. It pays off dividends when they're teenagers, and teach your children how to think, not what to think. When you teach them how to think, then you don't have to worry about always being around them. You know, they have the right mental framework to get those things done. But the whole theme of my kids. So gonna get a little personal here. So when that split up happened with their mom, um, I was enraged. I was mad about it not working out. For me, it was all about having a family and living that lifestyle. I had seen my parents do it. I thought that's the way it needed to be done. So there was a lot of mental challenges with coming to the realization that it wasn't gonna work out. But we had before we so we had joint custody of the kids. But before that, we went through that. We had to go through counseling sessions, and I remember this counseling session. And this counselor wasn't very good. But what I do remember is the activity they made me go through, and it made me think about what was happening, but through my kids' perspective instead of my own perspective. So the activity was put yourself in your kids' perspective, and then look at this situation, that situation, and at that instant it clicked, and I was realizing I was putting myself as a priority over my kids, and that realization was an ugly one, and I made it a priority to work as hard as I could in co-parenting, and just one of the accolades that I received by doing that. I know several years later, just a funny situation to kind of put it all together, is my daughter. I remember my daughter was having a soccer banquet, and their mom and I had been separated probably 4 or 5 years at this time.
Yeah.
But we did such a good job of working together and showing up together to activities and always being there for them, that at the end of the year they have silly awards like, who was the funniest player and this and that. One of the awards is who's the cutest couple, and me and their mom won that award, and we hadn't been together in 5 years. So we just kind of looked at each other, we smiled, and I knew that we were doing it right at that point.
Yeah. That's such a, yeah, wow, what a story, man. What a story. Like that's such a wild moment. And that
Didn't think I was gonna get that personal with you guys, but
hey man, like we're famous for doing that here on the Mi5 show. Really what this show is about, man, is yeah, we talk a lot about what people do, but we just really want to show people, who the people are that we're having on. It's like, so many podcasts, they have the framework of like, all right, what do you do? Tell us the story of how you did it and like the technicalities of everything. But it's like, no, man, the person behind that made everything happen. It's like, what does the day-to-day look like? We're over here talking about meditation, not marketing, like it's such an important difference. And I think, everything in the, self-improvement, self-care space. I mean, just like the mindfulness and everything around in that whole, just making the machine work, on a regular basis and not getting burnt out too, which is huge, obviously.
And we could talk, we can have another podcast with actual, A to Z of what to do in certain situations. But this is helpful because this is the mind, right? And what's happening in the background and all the stresses of family and expectations and all that. This is really where you need to master yourself. And once you master that, then you're free to be as creative as you want in whatever direction you want.
Exactly. Yep, 100%. Like we always say, like you could at Mi5, we're going to teach you how to be financially free so that you can open up the violin shop that you've always wanted to open.
Exactly.
Or you could sell pet rocks if you wanted to. It doesn't matter because now you've got cash flow, and it doesn't matter if what you're passionate about takes a couple years to get its feet off the ground. You're doing what you're passionate about every single day, and you get to own that. So, right. and that's just like I'm just so increasingly passionate about it. But anyways, man. The real question, the real reason we brought you on tonight. I'm curious to know if you were any part of a bicycle or any part on a bicycle, which one would you be and why? Which part on a bicycle represents Richard Elzy the most?
Wow, that's a unique question. I would I'd probably say the seat, just because of the direction I've taken and because I have put my kids on the pedestal that I have, Just the pressures of making sure that I take care of them is just putting, that pressure and weight on my shoulders, and just carrying them from point A to point B. I think that, along with the wheels to get there as well, but those are more the systems that take. But the actual seat, the protection, I think is what I am.
I love that. Yeah, the protector, man. Definitely get those vibes for sure, bro. And it's you're living it. Um, the other question, we always ask you. We there's like a series of questions that we ask that kind of just are like, kind of wrapping it up here. And if you had $10 million, but you couldn't spend it on yourself. You have to give it away in some way. What would you do? What would be your game plan like right off the bat?
$10 million to give away. I would. I wow. Um, I would dive deep into what my kids' passions were, and invest into structures and potentially businesses or things in those directions to help flourish their creativity in those directions. I would hope that it maybe be business. I know my daughter's studying nursing, so whatever their passions are, and I guess it doesn't even have to be related to their work, but what their passions are and what they want to do moving forward. To me, it's all about the legacy that we leave, and if I can put them in in a better situation than where I started, then that's what I'm going to do with that money.
That's amazing, man. And I know that they would have such a it would honestly I don't I honestly I okay actually would you be like, here's $10 million, here's kind of what I think you would do, or would you be mentoring them throughout the way and kind of like being the sensei, you know?
Right. So they've they've seen me struggle on the way up, right?
Yeah.
A young father, so they've seen the struggle. So I'm not worried with them that they only see the reward, right? I don't worry that they're going to be spoiled kids. Again, teaching them how to think, not what to think.
Right.
Um, any rewards that they see coming, I know they saw me struggle to get those rewards, and they saw me talk to them about the failures, talk to them about redirecting, going into a different career. They've seen that, so I don't worry so much about that. I do worry about kids who don't see the hard work behind rewards given to them.
Yeah.
I'm very cognizant about not spoiling them, giving them as much as I can, to protect their dreams. But definitely, they know what hard work does, and I've seen them in their attitude to school, their attitude to their sports, and things like that. So I know they're on a good path from that.
Yeah. Well, man, I can tell that even though you might not be giving $10 million to your kids anytime soon, or maybe, it could be sooner than we think. I know they're going to be successful either way with you backing them up, man. That's awesome.
But to end that is the teaching them how to think. If something was to happen to me, well, now I have life insurance to take care of that. But if something was to happen before that, like I'm confident that they're going to figure it out because the mental work has been done.
Yeah.
But obviously, if I can help in any direction, it's definitely that. But yeah, they got to work for it. It's not going to be given to them.
That's powerful, man, for real. So if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, and you don't have to worry about macros or micronutrients or anything like that, the one food that you pick could just be your favorite thing to eat. It's going to magically cover everything nutritionally for whatever dietary needs you might desire. What food would that be?
It's. I mean, it's tacos.
Okay, can you be more specific? Like just tacos in general, or you're like carne asada, man?
Everything, man. I like trying all kinds of different ones. I like the idea of the culture behind it. I like the idea of.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, just the culture, the soul food behind it, the family atmosphere, the being able to hang out with friends. It just puts me in a good mood, man.
Yeah,
no, that's probably obvious saying tacos.
Oh man, I love tacos, and that's the first time we've gotten tacos on the show. Yeah, so, you wouldn't be able to tell, but like I'm actually like over a quarter Mexican. They were like, if he pops out brown, he's Andres, and if he pops out white, he's Andrew. And I popped out white, so I'm Andrew. So, there's been a lot of tacos in my family throughout the years, so I could definitely. Yeah, yeah. And Brian had some bomb tacos in Vegas, that's for sure.
Nice.
Sorry, go ahead.
I may refer to you as Andres from time to time.
Yeah, that's okay, man. It's low key a part of my life. But if I were to choose a Mexican food, I'd probably have to go with enchiladas. I love enchiladas, man.
It's a good choice.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, man. Well, last thing before we wrap up here is, Richard, what do you want to be known for, man? Like, what do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to leave this earth?
I want to be known as someone who gave more value than they took, and in every direction, whether it's parenthood, family, entrepreneurship. I find that the more you give, the more you receive. So you kind of get to that point where you're actually receiving more than you're giving, but the intention is to give more than you receive. Yeah. And it seems to be working out so far in my relationships and my networking. So I would say that.
Yeah. Oh, 100%, man. I agree. And I think that you're absolutely crushing it on that front. Well, Richard, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on tonight. I think this is one of our most value-packed episodes. So, you can walk out saying that you crushed the Mi5 show, that's for sure. Yeah, and where can people connect to you? Where do you want people to connect with you?
You can look me up on Facebook, Richard Elzy, RICHARD ELZY. On Instagram, Enfuego Prosperity. That's where you can find me, and that's where I probably post the most, in those two areas.
Awesome, man. Well, I'll follow you on Instagram right after this. We'll have to stay in touch, because like you have such a cool journey. I want to be able to be there, to watch it carry out the vision. So yeah.
Thanks, brother. And I know we'll be working more going forward. And I felt the energy throughout this podcast. You made it very easy, asking great questions and directing it in a way that gave the viewers some value, for sure.
Thank you, man. Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this. This is our 18th episode this year of this specific show. So in total, we have about 40. It's like 41, 36 episodes in total that we've gone live this year, and it's been an absolute blast. Just having just such awesome people on, and being able to just go deeper into just how it's done to be a job-free entrepreneur and what it really means. And honestly, I think I've learned more than our audience, because I'm over here getting to pick the questions. So,
and that's the thing, right? Is giving. You're doing exactly what I just said. You're giving value to everyone. I mean, all these episodes, that's just you guys giving value. You're not getting paid for these episodes, at least not yet. Once you get a little more popular, maybe. But that's you giving value and receiving so much more than you give in. So I commend you on that, for sure.
Yeah. Well, honestly, man, whether it's 4 viewers or 100 viewers, I think it's more priceless to me than getting, monetizing the show and everything like that, just because of it's like, even if we're only impacting 4 lives, it's like that all compounds into my life. And that's why we do it, man.
Yeah.
Why we do it. Well, everybody, if you're not a part of this amazing community, the Mi5 movement, you have to be. It is absolutely completely free for a limited time only. That's right. It will not be free for very much longer. You can join us at t.me/the Mi5 movement. That is a Telegram community. Soon, we're going to be having our own app. So, get over here quick while you can, while it's still 1000% free. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us at the Mi5 movement. And guys, the branding is consistent. Our website is, you guessed it, the mi5movement.com. All righty, man. Well, Brian, I'm gonna have you come on here and we're gonna close it out, bro.
Buddy.
We're in the same room.
We're in the same room, the same space. Richard,
So
what
great.
an amazing night, man. Thanks so much for blessing us with your presence and giving us so much wisdom for our viewers, and just hanging out and getting to know you. I know most of the calls we're talking about big real estate deals or dealing with oil, but to actually sit down and get to share some space with you this evening and get to chat back and forth has been truly magical.
I appreciate it, man. It was a great time, and I'll definitely be following you guys going forward, for sure.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
We'll have to get Mike on here too, have you come back, maybe give a mindset mastery, which is our other show that we hold on Thursday nights. It's our TED Talk style, sort of invite somebody in to just actually take the stage and give a keynote. It's absolutely amazing. And Treasure Island, guys, in case you missed it at the beginning of the episode tonight, Treasure Island is launching off on May 31st. What is Treasure Island? You're going to have to come on by and find out. You can register at treasureisland.vip/explore to come check it out. May 31st, 8 p.m. Eastern time. We are going to be spilling the beans on the most amazing, biggest, and most exciting launch of the year for passive income vehicles, right from yours truly, Mr. Brian Davis, Andrew Golden, and Eric Melissa. We are coming straight to you with our very own curated passive income vehicles. We are amped up.
That's right. Be there or you will be forced to walk the plank.
Yes, be there or walk the plank.
That's right.
We're going to have all sorts of pirate puns up in this joint moving forward. It's going to be a blast.
I can't wait, man. I can't wait. Well, we don't have the Wheel of Abundance up tonight, so I think we'll close it out the classic way, man. And, as our official Mi5 meteorologist, it is my civil duty to give us the weather report tonight. And, guys, I just want to remind you, I'm here in Massachusetts with Brian. It's looking really crazy. We're going to have a tornado of prosperity, a monsoon of manifestation. What else, man? There's going to be a hurricane of abundance even. I'm getting pretty concerned for you if you're not out there with your umbrellas, because Mi5 is taking 2023 by storm.
Woo!
Let's go, guys.
Thanks, Richard. Bye, guys.
Have a good night.
Guys.